So let's talk about some things that is in America.
Okay.
Because the social media and the main media, even in China, they are talking about the problems in America, that America is not that safe. And like they have gun issues and racial problems. Always like black people are dangerous. Look what happened in 2020. So these are the problems facing in America. Is that serious that we have to pay attention, like we have no safe at all in America?
Right. These are complicated issues, but what I think is happening is the media is really using these things that happen, and it's like they're trying to make people panic. So they're over-reporting on these things that are happening. And of course, yes, bad things do happen, and we do see those things, and they're horrible. Let's take guns, for instance. Anytime that there is a mass shooting or something, that is an opportunity. The media just goes on and on and on. I think trying to make people afraid, but this is a very complicated issue, going back to the start of America, with the idea that when America started, it started because they wanted to break away from a king who was saying everything, telling them how to live their lives. America realized that you have to be able to fight for your freedom. And America's a big country full of wild creatures, and so people used their guns for food and to also defend themselves against an army. We're not in the same situation in America now, but the right to have a gun still stands because the founders knew it was important that a government can more easily take control of people and have ultimate power when people cannot fight. If an army comes, you're not going to win if all you have is a knife or something small fighting against that. So Americans hold on to their right to have guns for that reason. Now, there are bad people in the world, and yes, bad people take guns and use them for horrible things and kill innocent people. And it is a tricky situation because you need to find a way to limit how evil people can hurt innocent people at the same time as ensuring that Americans can defend themselves. Oftentimes, America is big, and if some bad guy with a gun does something, the one that stops the bad guy with the gun is a good guy with a gun, because it takes the police a long time to get there to save people. So it's tricky. Is America becoming less safe? Yes, but I think that has to do a lot with the way the media is portraying everything, trying to scare people, and also just people, really, the evil that is in people's hearts, not with the guns themselves. So that's the gun issue, I think.
Yeah, because they are giving away Jesus.
In my opinion, is because they don't have any moral authority to determine right from wrong, and so you do what you feel. And at times, some people feel like doing horrible things.
Yeah, so your opinion about race problem is also something that media wants us to focus on. Yeah.
The media do want to take examples of race problems to divide, because it's easier if people are angry at each other and divided. It's easier to have power, for the government to grab more power. America has a complicated history with race, and the horrible slavery that was a part of America at the beginning. But even at the beginning of America, there were people, most Christians, standing up saying slavery is wrong. This needs to be brought to an end. And ultimately, it was ended. It took time. Yes. But I think America, it has done a lot wrong, but it has also corrected or tried to correct a lot of wrongs. And it has taken time through history to do that. Slavery being one of those. And then after slavery, the idea of being unequal among the races, and that was a long, hard-fought battle also of making sure that blacks and whites and all races are equal. So I know that racial problems have existed and do exist. There are people out there who are racist and see people based on their skin color. But like you saw with Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement and doing so much to end segregation and bring people together, that was beautiful. And in my experience, I've lived my whole life where half the population or more in some of the places that I have lived are African American living with white, and we lived our lives just fine. I mean, where we didn't see each other based on our skin color. I mean, of course, we have eyes. We know the color of our skin, but that we get along just like you get along with anyone. And maybe being in an Asian culture where I don't see many other races, almost everybody is Asian. It's a very different thing. And I actually miss racial diversity. And I think that people fear what they don't understand. Like children here might be afraid of me because I'm white and they've never touched a white person before. Or they'll be afraid of that African American or black man over there because they've never seen or touched someone of a different color before. But in America, where it is so common, I miss that. That's one of the things I miss the most, is just the diversity. So yes, there are still people in America that on both sides, on all sides, that see people based on their skin color. But I would say the majority of Americans, that's not how we live our lives. We're used to seeing different races every day, every time we walk outside, and we live just fine. We're not scared of each other. We're just people. So yes, you might see on the news, you do see instances where that's not the case, because again, there is evil in people's hearts that want to divide and don't like what they don't understand. So yes, I'm not going to say that that never happens, because it does, and we need to deal with it. But this kind of panic that the media tries to create every time there is an example, or even when there's not an example, but they try to make an example of these race, is making it worse, especially now coming from Asia. Really, it's hard to understand what it's like when so many races are living together in one place in America. It's not what it seems.
Thank you. That's a good point. And the other thing we want to talk about is LGBTQ and the sex gender happening these days in America. Why do the Democrats take this like a huge issue that the media is always talking and talking and talking?
I think they're taking any chance that they can to, again, just try to divide people and make this issues even larger. And so America is having to talk through these issues of sexuality and gender and all of these things, along with race and guns. It all, I think, is a part of the conversation right now. But as far as the government goes on these issues, I think they're just using it as a chance, because people are passionate about what they feel and what they think. And so when you can take something that is so personal, because it's a part of who you are and how you, if you can get that feeling angry, then you can kind of create problems that then the government says, okay, we will fix the problem. And then it's like sneaky. It's a trick where you're just, okay, government solve my problem. And then we wake up where the government is solving all of the problems that they kind of helped create because they got people angry. I think that's a lot. I mean, these are real conversations that need to happen. But as far as making it this angry, panic-filled, I think the government's just using it as an opportunity for themselves.
Yeah. And we used to talk this issue about the gender because they want to confuse even our kids about the truth. It's like no truth at all.
Right.
Nothing is for certain.
So my view as a Christian, looking at just the way people are thinking these days, is that this has been going on in America for a long time, but if you can confuse people about what is true, what is real, about anything, it doesn't have to be gender or any topic. I think this could see it clearly in the idea of what is your truth or my truth. When I was growing up, that became like a big shift in the language that was used. Like, oh, well, it's true for me. This thing is true for me, but it's not true for you. That idea that there's not a set thing that is true. I believe that is what the government is trying to achieve, is really to just undo saying that something is true. Because if you can't say that anything is true, like you decide what you think is true and I decide what I think is true, and both things are true, well, then anything can happen. The government can control that in any way. But as a Christian, to say, no, not all things are true. Some things are true, and that means some things are false. And they don't like that, because then you can say, what you're doing is wrong. And they say, no. They don't want to be called out for being wrong, right or wrong. So they want to kind of make it just mixed up and confused so that people can't stand up and say what you're doing is wrong. So I think this has gone into every aspect of life, and the younger that you can confuse people about, is there truth? Is anything true? If you can convince a child they can't know that anything is true, then when they grow up, you will be able to control that person's mind, because they won't be able to stand up and say what you're doing is wrong at all, because they won't know that anything's true or not true.
Yeah, for me, that is certainly Saddam's work.
Right, I would
confuse
agree.
Everything.
Just trying to hide truth, not even hide truth, maybe, whereas the CCP is trying to hide truth, and then you get into modern thought of just trying to say that there is no truth, deny truth. There is no truth. Both serve the same, I think, function of just saying, okay, so we need a government that will tell us what to do.
Wrong or right.
And will protect us. And I don't have to think for myself. You think for me. You do for me. I trust you. I don't have any freedom. You make the decisions. And that just makes the world governments even more powerful.
Yeah, make the government like God.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having you today.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Hoping we can talk soon. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Praising God.
Praise God.
Bye.